Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. The ability to focus is key to improving our productivity and achieving our goals. But it's a skill that most people are never taught. Today's guest, Dandapani, is a Hindu priest, entrepreneur, and former monk of 10 years. A speaker and expert on leveraging the human mind to create a life of purpose and joy. Dandapani has helped millions overcome distraction through his popular TED Talk, workshops, and courses. His new book, The Power of Unwavering Focus, distills his wisdom from 10 years of monastic study into a step-by-step guide to cultivating concentration. In our conversation today, Dandapani shares tools to help you develop willpower, harness awareness, and sharpen your focus so that you can overcome distraction and achieve your goals. Here we go. This is my conversation with Dandapani. Dandapani, I want to start here. You spent 10 years living in a, cloistered monastery. What drew you to that life? And maybe get me a little bit inside of that journey.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to be a monk since I was about 4 or 5 years old. And ever since then, it was quest to find a teacher. But it wasn't until I was about 8 or 9 I realized it wasn't about being a monk. It was self-realization or enlightenment I was seeking. Then I realized I needed a teacher to guide me. And I met many wonderful gurus and monks along the way, and they all had inspiring things to say. But it wasn't until I met my teacher, my guru, that I found someone who I could resonate with, who brought practicality and reason into spirituality, which I felt was missing so much. It's kind of tends to be a lot of woo-woo around. He was very grounded, very methodical, articulated steps and goals clearly. And so I decided to be a monk in his monastery. So when I graduated from university in Australia, I moved to Hawaii and got ordained by him as a celibate Hindu monk in our tradition and lived there in his monastery for 10 years.
And what do you think people would be surprised to know, right? I mean, we all have these preconceived conceptions about the life of a monk. Get me inside of that for a minute.
I was the same too before going to a monastery, right? All I saw was David Carradine. I mean, I'm dating myself here with Kung Fu and shows like that. And you think like, okay, that's what monks do all day. Well, every monastery is different, I should say first. And my guru embraced technology. So even though he followed a very traditional path with our rituals, the way we lived, our clothing, everything, he embraced technology. So all the monks had a set of robes, set of beads, and a MacBook Pro laptop to work on. And we did desktop publishing. We printed books to get our teachings in books. The monastery had an amazing digital platform. Started podcasting before the word podcast was even invented. Monastery was blogging from day one, I think in the 90s, posting every day. They have a site called Today at Kauai's in the monastery. The monastery was on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. So every day at 5 o'clock, monks would take pictures of what happened and post it on their site. So you could see what happened each day at the monastery. So that's something that's always been surprising to people. Monks and Macs, not typically two things you put together. I'll tell you this funny story. I remember this lady visiting this monastery, and she asked me a question, and I said to her, why don't you send me an email, and I'll send you an article my guru wrote, which I feel will better answer your question. And she paused for a while and looked at me strangely and asked, is it okay for monks to use email? And I said, it's completely okay for monks to use email as long as there are no attachments.
Interesting.
If you got the joke, no attachments. So.
I get it. No. I get it. As long as there's no attachments, I get it. By the way, tell me briefly, if you would, about your guru. You reference him a lot in a lot of the... Tell me a little bit about him.
He's American. He was born in Lake Tahoe in 1927. He was orphaned when he was very young. His mom died, I think, when he was around 9 or so, and then his dad died very shortly after. And when he was 10, he was adopted by a close friend of the family. And, this is back in 1937 in Northern California. And she asked him, "What do you want to do with your life?" And he was very clear. He said, "I want to dance." So the people that trained him in dance in his early years, 11, 12, 13 and stuff, he not only taught him about dance, but they taught him about the body, how the mind works, how the nervous system works, how energy flows through the body. And by the time he was 16, 17 years old, he was the lead dancer for the San Francisco Ballet Company, one of the best ballet dancers in America at that time. So he decided to quit at the peak of his career at 18. And he jumped on the first ship to sail from America to India after World War II. It took 3 months. And from India, he made his way to Sri Lanka, where he continued to study from some mystics, and then finally said that, I can attain this enlightenment I'm looking for. And he gave up all his belongings, went into the jungles, and meditated in these caves called the Caves of Jelani in southern Sri Lanka. And this was, 1946 or so, or something around that time. But I always thought it extremely brave for a young American boy to travel to Asia at that time when there was no internet. You couldn't research, you couldn't Google Maps where you were going, to go and pursue his spiritual path. He obviously wanted it really, really badly. And that's one thing Molly, I point out in the book is like, how critical it is for you to desire something. And if you don't want something badly enough, you typically just don't end up getting it. The desire for that thing is critical.
And after 10 years, right, you decided to not renew your vows and you chose to start a new chapter in New York City. And I'm getting my head around going from where you were to New York. I mean, that had to be a little bit of an adjustment, to say the least. Tell me about that.
So I'm no longer a monk anymore. I'm a priest, and this is a traditional outfit or garb of a Hindu priest. And in Hinduism, priests can get married. So I'm actually married. I have a daughter. I can work at McDonald's or be an entrepreneur. I decided to be an entrepreneur. So I work as an advisor to other entrepreneurs and athletes, teaching them how the mind works and helping them to leverage that to be better at what they do. So I decided to move to New York City. I left the monastery. They gave me a set of robes. I had my robes, my beads. They gave me a Mac and $1,000 cash, and that's what I started with. And I landed in LA. Instead of going back to Australia, I said, fly me to the mainland US. I landed in LA with that. And I told myself that, I don't need to borrow any money. I don't need anything else. I have the most amazing tools that have been taught to me over the last 10 years. I just need to apply them. I know they work. And then I can create the life that I want. So I decided to make New York my home. I just felt the right place. It had the right energy, the right people I needed to meet. And I moved there. And so I lived there for 11 years. And then 2 years ago, we moved to Costa Rica, where I am right now.
Yeah. And you spoke to your book, The Power of Unwavering Focus, and it's out now. And it's incredible. It's an incredible read. And so I'd like to start with distraction. What is the cost of distraction?
I'm terrified to even share. And I think people who are distracted don't know the cost of it. I would say the biggest cost is the loss of your precious life, the time that we have in life. We all assume we're going to live forever, regardless of your religious background, the philosophies you subscribe to. You have one life as you, and at some point you are going to die. This is non-negotiable. Every time you're distracted, distraction is robbing you of that finite amount of time you have in that life. And you don't know it until you get to the end and you go, oh, wow, I wasted all that time. Because we don't have a clock with a time on it telling us how much we have left. We assume we have infinite amount of time, but we don't. All of us have a finite amount of time. I realized that, and I realized that distraction will rob me of that time. That very same time, I could focus on my daughter, on my wife, and the people and things that I love. And therefore, on focusing on them, I can get rewarding experiences and live a rewarding life. A distraction cost me that, and it's not worth it.
Why do you think people are so willing to, at some level, accept distraction, right? It seems so sadly common in our world today. And whether, by the way, it's accepting it for themselves or with others in their lives that they interact with?
I think a few things with ourselves. Distraction can be a wonderful distraction from all the things that you would need to face within yourself. People often ask me what was the most difficult thing in the monastery. Is it not seeing your family, talking to your family, your loved ones? Obviously, those were tough, having a very strict routine. The toughest thing, Molly, is that, the monastery had 51 acres of land, and each monk lived in a 10 by 10 base, a hut, right? So 10 feet by 10 feet, where no electricity, no water, nothing, no plumbing. And that's where I went back to my hut every night. And that was it. Every night I was left with me. I had nothing to escape to. No food, no drinks, no phone, no internet, nothing. I had to face everything inside of myself. And that was extremely unpleasant and painful. Because whether I wanted to see it or not, there was nothing to escape to. Now, here, living in the world, if there's something going on inside of me, I can easily get online, get distracted with some Instagram reels. I can watch a movie on Netflix. I can eat some food. I can call somebody. There's a million things I can bury my head into besides myself. But in the monastery, there was nothing. So I think distraction is a great pain reliever when you don't want to look inside and see everything that's going on, the good and not so good. And then with regards to other people and accepting distraction, we accept distraction in others because we don't value our life. We don't value the time that we have. We have this interview for an hour. If I said to you, you only had 45 minutes to live, would you stay here? You wouldn't. You'd leave. You'd say, great, chatting with you, bye, and you'd hang up and you go see your family. And in that 45 minutes you had left, if you were talking to someone and they were distracted, you wouldn't tolerate that. You wouldn't sit there and wait and go like, oh my God, I got 43 minutes left. He's so distracted with his phone. You're going to tell him, look, put your phone away. I only have 43 minutes left. I look at my life that way. I don't think about death every day, but what I do think about every single day is that I have a finite amount of time, and I cannot tolerate someone robbing me of this precious gift called life that I have. So many people have died and would wish for 5 minutes more with a loved one, and they can't get it.
It's interesting. Bonnie Ware wrote a book of the 5 regrets of the dying. And it's funny because I don't know all 5 off the top of my head, but, living a life of distraction as a regret isn't one of them. But at some level, I would imagine it's threaded in there somewhere, Dandapani, that people would regret that if they had an opportunity to think of it in the way that you're describing it, that it's robbing us of the ability to live and pour into the things and the people in our lives that matter most. And your book is intended to help people understand the power of focus, right? And the impact of distraction. So to take it a step further, how do you define focus and a focused life as you talk about it?
So I define focus as my ability to give who and what I'm with my undivided attention. So in the book, I talk about understanding the mind, and in understanding the mind, we talk about awareness and the mind. The mind doesn't move, but awareness moves within the mind. And I describe awareness in one example as a glowing ball of light that travels in your mind. If I can keep my awareness on you, Molly, I'm concentrating. But if it shifts away, I'm getting distracted. Then I bring it back using my willpower to you. My ability to hold it on you is my ability to concentrate. So to live a focused life is to go through your day in a state of giving who and what you're with your undivided attention, to be perpetually engaged in every task, in every conversation, in everything that you're doing. Now, people might feel that's daunting and difficult to do. It's only difficult because you've been practicing distraction for so long. And if you may remember in the book, I talk about the law of practice. You become good at what you practice. I've been practicing concentration for decades, so to be able to concentrate is not difficult. It doesn't make me special. It's just what I've been doing. Now, if I ask someone else who's distracted to concentrate, it's going to be very difficult for them. Now, if I ask someone who's a master at distraction to practice distraction 8 hours a day, they're not going to struggle with that. They can go like 8 hours a day, that's a piece of cake. Now, if you ask me to practice distraction 8 hours a day, I'm going to struggle because I haven't built those muscles, those distraction muscles. So for you asking me to do something that I don't know how to do, and that's why I'm going to struggle. And I think once people realize that concentration can be something that you can learn, practice, and make a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it's no different than distraction. The question to ask yourself is, how much effort do you put into being distracted every day? And most people will probably say, I put no effort into being distracted.
Right.
I'm just naturally distracted.
So true.
So if you can do that, you can do focus as well. It's the same thing. It's just patterns, whatever pattern you've created.
Maybe you've lost your purpose and that inner fire to pursue your dreams. If so, you are not alone. So many of us have been there. As a top sports agent for 15 years, representing and working with the best of the best, I've seen and helped countless people unlock their drive to accomplish great things and finally live out their dreams. That's why I've crafted a brand new on-demand course to help you unlock your potential to fuel next level success. In my new course, Up Your Game, I share the critical 8 keys that you absolutely must use to get unstuck and to finally realize your fullest potential. This course, it's not inspirational fluff. It gives you action guides so that you can apply it to your life and take action right now. So are you ready to up your game? Sign up for my new course today at mollyfletcher.com/course. That's mollyfletcher.com/course. I can't wait for this course to change your life in incredible ways. Check it out. People who meditate, we work on focusing on very specific things inside of that 15, 20, 45 minutes that we were to meditate. But what I'm sort of hearing you say is that there's an opportunity to, at some level, live your life like that every day. So instead of just that 45 minutes or that 15 minutes of meditation, that it's the way that we choose to lock in, whether it's on conference calls, conversations with the people that we love, whether it's whenever it might be in our lives, you're suggesting almost take that meditation practice into your daily life and lock in and focus on those moments all day long, every day. Is that an accurate sort of analogy at some level?
Yeah, extremely accurate. In Hindu philosophy, the first 2 steps is working on the lifestyle. It's not actually even working on meditation. Only in the West do we see a picture of someone meditating by a river and we go, I want what that person has in the photo, which seems to be peace of mind. So I'm going to learn to meditate as well. But that's not where you start. You start with lifestyle design. You cannot meditate if you don't have a lifestyle that supports a meditation practice. There's no point for me to sit for 15 minutes in the morning trying to regulate my breath or chant some mantra if the remaining 23 hours and 45 minutes are going to run around like a head-cut chicken. How's that going to work? It's like me eating salad in the morning and then the rest of the day I'm going to binge on beer and fries and pizza and God knows what. Does the 15 minutes of eating salad in the morning going to make a difference? Don't really think so. So the idea is to make your lifestyle, design your lifestyle that supports a concentration practice so that when you actually sit down to meditate, you're in a state of mind of focus. So let me bring up this point. So if someone's meditating 15 minutes in the morning to learn how to concentrate, and the rest of the day, just say there's 24 hours a day, average person sleeps 8 hours a day if they're lucky, 16 hours a day you're awake. Just say out of the 16 hours, you're distracted for 8 hours a day. So imagine practicing distraction 8 hours a day, and then the next morning you go and sit for 15 minutes. What do you think your state of mind is going to be? Focused or distracted? So you start with a lifestyle, then you start with the meditation practice, not the other way around.
What are the rewards of focus? And I mean, I don't think there's anybody listening, or I certainly can understand the benefits of the ability to truly focus. You know, there's so much power in focus. We know that. But Dandapani, how do you articulate the rewards of this?
My ability to give someone I love my undivided attention, my unwavering focus, is my ability now to experience them fully. And when I can do that, which was something I learned from my guru, whenever he spoke with me, he kept his awareness completely anchored in me. He gave me his undivided attention, his unwavering focus. He told me by doing that he loved me. He valued what I had to say. He valued my time on this planet. He listened to every single word. How could someone listen to me if they can't even pay attention to me, if they're so distracted? I could be physically sitting. Have you ever had the experience, Molly, where someone's in front of you and they look at you and they ask you, where are you?
That's absolutely never happened to me, but that sounds like something that could happen.
Could happen to other people.
Yeah, and, no, I've had people look at me and go, lock in, lock in.
Yeah, and technically, the correct answer, when they ask you, where are you? The right answer is, I'm standing right here in front of you. But based on the book, the right question to ask is, where's your awareness? I know physically you're in front of me. Your ball of light is no longer engaged in me. It's traveling somewhere else in your mind, engaged with something else in your mind. So people think that by spending time with their loved one, being physically present with their loved one, they're actually spending time with them. I disagree. Yes, you're physically present. You're always physically present. Where are you mentally? And in the book, I give this beautiful quote by my guru, where awareness goes, energy flows. So if I can keep my ball of light on you, my awareness on you, that's where my energy is flowing to. You feel my energy. Now you feel my love. You feel my care, that I value what you have to say. I value your time on this planet. And that's one of the most beautiful things, the greatest gift you can give someone.
What role does technology play in all of this? And it's so interesting and at some level counterintuitive to what people might assume you would say, because, you know, a lot of people might think it's part of the problem and an excuse or some combination of both of those things. But you had a wonderful TED Talk and you talk about it in your book. Can you get me inside of this a little bit, the technology piece relevant to distraction and focus?
At a lot of my events, people come up to me and hold their phones up at me and say, these things are ruining our lives. And my response always is, I don't think so. I think it's your inability to exercise discipline around the use of it that's ruining your life. I think smartphones are amazing. You know, you look at an iPhone or an Android phone, these things can just pretty much do about anything you want. But we don't have any guidelines and parameters around how we use them. And that comes from lack of knowing one's purpose in life. Because I'm clear of my purpose in life, my purpose has helped me define my priorities in life. So now I'm clear of my purpose and my priorities. I know what to focus on. Now when I look at technology, I ask the question, how can technology serve me to fulfill living a purpose-focused life? I look at technology as a servant. It's here to serve me, not me to serve it. So, for example, we have a 33-acre botanical garden that we're creating over here in Costa Rica. I have shovels. When I need to dig a hole, I go grab the shovel, I dig a hole. When I don't need to dig a hole, the shovel is in the shed. When I need the phone to help me do something that's aligned with my purpose, I grab the phone. When I don't need it, I just leave it on the table. It's no different to me than a shovel. It's here to serve me. And I think if we don't know our purpose, we don't know our priorities in life, then the phone, technology can become a priority. Then our environment determines for us what our priorities are.
We all would love to be able to just snap our fingers and have more focus. But I love how you talk about it, right? The things that we practice, we get good at, and the things that we, get good at become a little bit easier. But what are some of the ways that people can start and that we can start? And I can speak for myself, Dandapani. I mean, to me, I could absolutely personally benefit from strengthening this muscle inside of me. How would you tell people to start?
The best way, obviously, is buy the book, read it. But over 25 years of my experience and practice and learning into this book. So it's not something I woke up one morning and just wrote.
Sure.
Based on, a retreat I went to or something. Second, I would say leverage the non-negotiable reoccurring experiences in your average day. What I mean by that is, so every day I speak with my spouse. Every day I speak with my daughter. It's non-negotiable. It's reoccurring every day.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I speak with them, I give them my undivided attention. So rather than me saying to you, hey, Molly, I want you to wake up tomorrow morning. I want you to do 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of breathing exercise, 10 minutes of yoga. You go like, holy crap, how am I going to fit all this in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
So rather than adding one more thing to your life, take the experiences that you have every day and do them differently. Now use them as an opportunity to practice concentration. You mentioned a family. You have a spouse, a partner?
Yes, my husband, and we have 3 daughters.
Okay. Every day you speak with your husband.
Yes.
And maybe in a day, you speak with your husband a cumulative total of maybe 90 minutes or 2 hours, 5 minutes here, 1 minute there, 2 minutes there, 20 minutes there. Every time you speak with him, give him your undivided attention. Now, if you speak with him 2 hours a day, that's 14 hours a week. After 6 months, what would you start to be good at? Forget the meditation in the morning. So that's how we were trained as monks. My guru looked at the whole day as an opportunity to practice skills that we want to develop, as opposed to just looking at the morning period as a small window. Okay, I got to get my soul cycle in. I got to do my yoga, get in my green juice, and then my breathing exercise, and then I'm going to get to work. And then just go crazy, right? Like, and that's not the way. Start with a lifestyle. Look at your whole day. Use your whole day as a gym.
So think about reoccurring things. I mean, I've even heard you talk about, whether it's brushing your teeth, washing your face, getting ready for bed, making your bed. These are all opportunities and moments that we can be really intentional about focusing.
And every day you do those things. Every day, hopefully, you brush your teeth. Even if it's 2 minutes. Now it's 2 minutes brushing your teeth. It's a minute washing your face. Maybe it's a minute putting on makeup in the morning, whatever it may be. You add those minutes up, they add up to 30, 45 minutes, an hour a day. I teach my daughter when she comes home from work, we don't wear our shoes in the house. So every time she takes the shoes off, I teach her to line it up nicely. She's 3 years old and she knows how to do it. Now that becomes a ritual, right? Of finishing the process of going out, coming home, taking her shoes off, lining them up nicely instead of just kicking them off like, any which direction and coming in the house. Then the whole day becomes an exercising of massaging the muscles in your mind to take the shape that you want.
We have a training program on energy. I wrote a book called The Energy Clock. I'm super passionate about energy as it relates to how we perform. How would you describe the relationship between focus and energy?
The more you can focus, the less energy you consume. So the saying my guru had, where awareness goes, energy flows. So imagine if awareness is a car and energy is the gasoline that powered the car. If my car sat idle in my driveway, it wouldn't use very much gasoline. If I was an Uber driver and I drove all over town for 5 hours, I would consume a tremendous amount of gasoline. So my awareness is bouncing all around my mind in the space of 5 minutes. Where awareness goes, energy flows. Now I think what should I have for lunch? Well, that's right. I'm doing a podcast right now. I forgot. Yeah, I have another one in a couple of hours. I better get ready for that too. I should tell my wife. I don't know if my wife, who's picking up my daughter for today? I should pick up my daughter. I should get that contract back to that client. Now I've gone to 10 different places in the space of 30 seconds. Now my energy is going all over the place in my mind and it becomes exhausting. The same way when I lived in New York and people would come to New York and say oh my God, I walked around today. It was so exhausting. I don't get exhausted in New York. I know why you get exhausted, because you're walking down Fifth Avenue. Your awareness goes to the light on the building, and then it goes to the policeman, and then it goes to someone arguing over there. It goes to someone honking over there. It goes to construction workers over there. Your awareness is bouncing all over the place, and wherever awareness goes, your energy is flowing to all those places. And after 5 minutes of walking down Fifth Avenue, you go oh my God, this is so exhausting. When I walk down Fifth Avenue, I keep my awareness with me. And because I keep my awareness with me, I'm keeping my energy with me. I don't allow it to go and engage with the things around me. From here, I can observe everything around me, but I don't necessarily have to go and engage with that.
In a day where I have, sadly, maybe multitasked a little bit more, I would say I'm a recovering multitask person, but multitasking is sadly so common. And there's all kinds of data, right, around that it decreases performance. You do it twice. I mean, there's just a lot of data around it. But I find on days that has happened, I'm much more tired at the end of the day. I'm more exhausted because just like you said, I believe it takes more energy when you're doing all those things, when you're looking at the construction worker and the cop and the people arguing versus just being present and enjoying the walk down Fifth.
And every time you engage with something and then you shift to something else, you have to disengage with that, re-engage with something else, disengage with that, go back, re-engage with what you were engaged with previously, find out where it is you left off
right
in that path, regain that continuity, keep going, disengage. I mean, this is an exhausting process.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people do it all day, and we've been sold as a society for a long time that multitasking is good. That if you can multitask, it's great. And technology supports this, right? If you look at Apple's products, they go like, now you can multitask on your iPad.
Yeah, I know.
iOS 27.356 comes with multitasking. Like, awesome, great.
Yeah. You too can be more tired at the end of the day.
Exactly.
You know, I love the lesson in your book. You talk about the 3 ways to develop willpower that you learned from your guru. Can you talk about those?
So I define willpower in a very simplified, inaccurate way as a mental muscle. So imagine if you had biceps around your mind and in your awareness, your ball of light was drifting away, you would use that mental muscle to bring awareness back. There's 3 ways to develop that mental muscle. One is finish what you begin. It takes more effort at the end of the project than at the beginning of the project. Everyone's inspired, enthusiastic at the start. Halfway through, we go like, whose idea was this? You know, it's so much easier to go start another project than to finish it. But every time you finish something, you're developing willpower. And then the 2 other ways is do a little bit more than you think you can and do it a little better than you think you can. So I tell in the book to take these 3 methods and again, implement them or integrate them is the better word to use in your daily life, in the things that you already do. You have time to make breakfast. You have time to eat breakfast. You surely have 30 seconds to wash the dish or put it in the dishwasher. It's not that difficult. Now you finish the process of having breakfast. You have a cup of coffee, wash the coffee cup or put it in the dishwasher. Finish that process. Take your shoes off before you come in if that's what you do. You know, if you take your coat off, hang it up in the closet instead of throwing it on the couch. Then your whole day becomes rituals that support developing willpower, that supports having a focused life. Now, when you go to spend time with your 3 daughters, with your husband, you are able to be present, but you can't be present if you can't focus.
Hi again, it's Molly. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're a go-getter who wants to conquer overwhelm and sharpen your focus, I want to let you know about my new free webinar training, Purposeful Productivity. This free webinar gives you a framework to unlock more energy for what matters most and to finally beat burnout. Head over to mollyfletcher.com/webinar to access this free training and my new life-changing energy management framework. That's mollyfletcher.com/webinar. As parents, our girls are freshmen and sophomore in college, but when they're young, right, we often as parents, we get frustrated when our kids can't focus. And you know, the amount of children that are being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD that are being prescribed medicine, I don't know the stats, but I would imagine it's quite high. What advice do you have for parents to help their kids learn these skills at an early age when potentially the world would say they're pre-wired for an inability to focus because they were born that way?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. One, I would like to bring up the concept that to parents, have you considered that your child struggles to focus because no one has ever taught them how to focus? Mm-hmm. I think that's an important thing to bring up, right? I got told my whole childhood that I couldn't concentrate, that I was easily distracted. But it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I was living with my guru in his monastery that he taught me how to concentrate. And now that's what I do for a living, one of the things I do for a living. So all to show that you can teach someone to concentrate, you can help them to practice concentration, and they can become good at it. And obviously, there might be some people that might have a physiological disorder that may benefit from medication. I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. But I definitely push back against the concept that if you tell me someone can't concentrate, you diagnose them as having ADD or ADHD and then drug them as a result. I push back on that. So my first go-to is like, okay, if someone can't concentrate, let's teach them how to concentrate. And in the book, I bring up the example of, just say I want to learn to play the piano. You ask me to play the piano. I can't play the piano, so you diagnose me with PPD, which is piano playing disorder, and then you drug me for it. That would be unfair. The best thing to do is to teach me how to play the piano. So focus is no different. So that's, I think, the first important thing to grasp. The second thing is, for parents who want to teach their children how to concentrate, you have to lead by example. You have to learn first. I cannot tell you, Molly, how many parents I've had come up to me and go like, can you tell me how I can teach my children how to concentrate? And I go, can you concentrate? Are you willing to learn how to concentrate? And are you willing to practice concentration and be a role model to your children? Because if you're not willing to do that, your children will never learn. Why would they want to do something that you don't want to do yourself? For me, the way I teach my 3-year-old is by learning how to be present myself, to be learning how to be concentrated. So I give her my undivided attention. So she doesn't know any different.
You know, and you've done some work with athletes, which is the background I come from. You know, we hear a lot of athletes and coaches talk about, you know, just block it out, right? Block everything out. But you say that's not actually focus. Why not?
Because if you use the example of awareness in the mind, and I don't know if you read the section in the book about the American football example I gave about the defense linebacker. If you're blocking something out, you have to go to that thing to block it out. If I have someone trying to come in through my window right now, the only way I can block him out is to go to the window and push him away. Now, if I have someone coming through my door, I have to go to my door and push him away. So what am I doing? Am I focusing on this podcast, or am I blocking out all the things that are trying to get into the room? The same way with sports. They say, get on court, block everything out. I don't think people pay attention to the words that they're using. Because if I have to block the crowd out, I need to focus the crowd. Okay, I'm going to block that crowd out. I'm going to block the cheerleaders out. I'm going to block this person yelling out. And I'm going to block this person. Now I'm focusing on all those things I'm trying to block out. Rather than focusing on what I need to do, giving the ball my undivided attention, I'm so immersed in this that I have no attention for anything else around me. I had the privilege of working with an extremely successful soccer player for a few years, and he was never taught to concentrate. Coaches would tell him, guys, we've got 5 minutes on the clock. You really need to go out there and focus, right? I mean, obviously, there's two halves in soccer, it doesn't work, but in basketball, for example, go out there, 5 minutes left on the clock, or 2 minutes left on the clock, we're 5 points behind. We need all of you to go out there and focus. But we never teach them how to concentrate, which is terrible. And then the other question, Molly, is during the day when they're not practicing, what is their lifestyle? Are they practicing a distracted behavior? Because you're on court for an hour and a half, 2 hours on the field, max. So you have 22 hours left in the day. Are you at home? Are athletes at home on their phone, being distracted, doing multitasking? Then they're not supporting the performance of the game. When I work with an athlete, I focus on the lifestyle. I don't focus about how to get focused on the field. I spend, if it's 90 minutes on the soccer field, I talk about the 22 and a half hours you're not on the soccer field. That's what I work on with them. Forget the 90 minutes. That's not important. I want to know what you're doing for the 22 and a half hours, because that's going to be the game changer. So we talk about how you drink your coffee, what you do with your coffee cup. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? How do you interact with your family? How do you drive? Do you put your laundry away? We focus on all those things. After training, do you leave your boots around? Do you get the team staff to come and pick up the balls in the boots? Or do you clean up? Do you finish what you begin? That's what we focus on, the 22 and a half hours. That, when we focus on the 22 and a half hours, when they get on the field for 90 minutes, they're ready. because they've been preparing for 22 and a half hours. And that becomes an absolute game changer.
I like how you wove in the name of the podcast there, Dandapani. That was pretty nice, man. A game changer. You nailed it. So what would be the 2 to 3 things that you would tell somebody who is trying to unlock more focus? Are they just mono-focused on the task at hand consistently, and the result of that will be this predisposition to have greater focus in other areas of your life?
Yes, that would be true. But I would take one step back and say, in the first couple of chapters in the book, there's one lesson I call make the case. You really have to make the case to yourself. You have to sell it to you. You have to be like an Amway salesman to convince you need this dishwashing liquid. And then you go like, it is. This thing's going to make all my clothes clean.
So you got to believe it.
Yes, because if there's no impetus and there's no reason behind it, then it's something you're going to do because you heard a podcast, you read a book, you were inspired for a couple of months, and then you're just going to put it away and go back to what you want to do. For me, I made the case to myself as to why I need to focus. And that case is that I have a finite life. If I die tomorrow, I want to make sure the time I spent with my daughter, my wife, the people I love was so rewarding. And the only way it can be rewarding is if I can give them my undivided attention when I'm with them. I want to be able to look back on my life, Molly, at the point of death and go, that was an amazing life. 3 years after I joined the monastery, we found out one day that my guru had cancer, and within 3 months, he died. And one of the last things he said on his deathbed was, what an amazing life. I would not have traded it for anything in the world. Mm-hmm. And you think, what a profound thing to hear from a dying man. And the only way you can say that you had lived an amazing life was that you have clarity of purpose, have your purpose define your priorities, and then have the ability to focus on those priorities and purpose. The byproduct of that is you live an amazing life. When you're convinced that you want that, then the need to want to learn to focus becomes a priority in life. But just to say to your audience and anyone listening, like, okay, here are 2 things you can do to focus. Yeah, people will do that, but you won't be able to sustain it. You have to convince yourself why you want it. And it could be as simple as saying, you know what, I have 3 daughters and a husband, and I know they or myself are not going to be around forever. And while I have them, I want to enjoy them the most. And the one way to do that, really the greatest way to do that, is to be present in every engagement with them. And I can only be present if I can be focused. And if I can't be focused, I can't be present. I'm physically present, mentally I'm somewhere else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. We owe it to others.
And then that becomes the impetus for learning how to concentrate.
Well, listen, we end with rapid fire. I'm going to hit you with some quick questions, and you just stay focused, Dandapani.
Ready.
And hit me with what comes up for you. You ready? What's your favorite wisdom you received from your guru?
That divinity is inside of us and in all things. And it's there for us to experience every single day of our life. Never forget, you are God.
What brings you the greatest joy?
Worshipping God, meditating on God.
When you feel overwhelmed or you feel unfocused, what do you do?
Bring awareness back to what I'm doing, do one thing at a time. That's the simple solution to life's biggest problem.
Yeah. In the last year or so, what's a new habit or ritual that has most improved your life?
Honestly, none.
Really? Wow.
Yes, because I've been quite overwhelmed with everything we're doing over here, the book, the construction, and spending time with my daughters. So most of the rituals I've had prior to my daughter being born have been thrown out the window. So I'm rebuilding my life and redesigning my life now.
Got it.
That's the honest answer.
Yeah, I appreciate it. What are you reading or listening to right now?
Honestly, I'm not a very big reader. I'm working on one book, and I've been working on it for 1.5 years. It's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm an extremely slow reader. I read a passage over and over again, sometimes 20 times.
Okay. Anything you're listening to?
Listening, no. That book is what I'm really focused on right now, Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, I think it's an amazing mystical book that everyone should read.
Fantastic. So the show's called Game Changers. So one last question. Who or what is a game changer that inspires you and why?
My guru, even though he's not alive. he was a living example of everything he taught me. And I find it's very hard to find living examples nowadays of what people preach. And I struggle as well, but he was an amazing living example of it. So he's been a great role model for me.
And what a gift. I mean, you had and have been so influenced by him, but then had the opportunity to be with him all day and see that what he talks about and preaches, he lives. That's awesome.
That was the greatest blessing of my life.
All right, here are a few of my favorite takeaways from this conversation. Number one, focus is a skill that you must practice. You know, we tend to think of concentration as a skill that maybe we're born with rather than a skill that we need to be taught, that we need to learn. But learning to concentrate works like any other skill. We have to seek instruction and we have to practice regularly to master it. Number two, we are what we practice. The reality is most people are distracted because they practice distraction all day, every day. Right? We intentionally become masters of distraction. But we can change this by intentionally choosing to practice concentration instead. Number three, small is powerful. There's no detox or quick fix to help you unlock the power of meditation. Instead, it's about the power of small. By choosing practical, incremental, and sustainable practices, you build concentration and mastery of awareness. So important, so powerful. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.